We now honor the late Guy Ray Rutland.
Throughout the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, the racing of the fastest horses on earth began its transition from a regional sport into a national industry. If back then there was one constant, it was that many of the fastest horses that made their way into the winner's circle were bred by Guy Ray Rutland and his wife Mildred. As a young man, Guy Ray worked as a short-order cook, if only to earn enough money so he could start making a living with horses, which is just what he did in 1945 when he began raising quarter horses and cattle at a ranch in Pawhuska, Oklahoma. 5 years later, he moved to Independence, Kansas. He improved his horses year by year until Pacific Bailey was born in 1963. Guy Ray was on his way. For 9 of 11 years, from 1967 to 1977, Guy Ray and Mildred Rutland were the leading breeder by wins. Their record of 8 consecutive wins was a mark matched only by the late Frank Vessels Sr. in the 1950s and 60s, and wasn't broken until 2001 by Dr. Edward C. Allred. In more than 60 years of breeding American quarter horses, the couple bred 48 stakes winners and the earners of almost $2 million. While Guy Ray in his own name bred another 13 stakes winners. Pacific Bailey became a track record setter and AQHA champion, who sired the race earners of more than $2.3 million. They also used sires Bar Money, Jet Stop, and Pacific Bailey's grandsire Gold King Bailey. So Guy Ray was a well-known breeder of racehorses, but as one might expect of a man who made his living as a rancher, he had an eye for versatile horses, all-around animals that could pull their weight on the ranch. The Rutlands are the 12th all-time leading breeders of AQHA champions with 15, and Guy alone bred another 8. They bred 90 quarter horses that stood first in halter classes and AQHA shows, ranking them 26th among breeders of halter class winners. Horses from their program also earned money in National Cutting Horse Association arenas. Guy Ray and Mildred are survived by sons Jeffrey and Clifford and daughter Rebecca. Jeff says the family still strives to raise the all-around quarter horse that can do it all, and that where his dad was concerned, 20 hours a day in the barn wasn't work, it was his passion. As Guy Ray himself put it, "I like to raise a good-looking racehorse. Some like to rope, others like to cut, but I have that running bug."
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Jeff Rutland, Cliff Rutland, and Becky Rutland Barr in honor of Guy Ray Rutland. Yes.
Well, I'll try to say a few words here. I was nominated for the first go-round. Let me begin by saying it is quite a great honor to be here to honor Dad, and he would really be pleased and proud of us all. I would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for inducting him. After being inducted in the Kansas Quarter Horse Association and the Kansas Quarter Horse Racing Association, we thought the next step was just to get into Daddy of them all. And here he is, the American Quarter Horse Association Hall of Fame. Dad was really proud of the horses that he bred and raised, and especially the friends that he had met through the years of the horse business. He would take time to visit with you whenever you come by and see him and see his horses. Again, I would like to thank everybody involved for putting him in the Hall of Fame. And just to mention a few, Richard Chamberlain, Benny Hudson, Joe Allen, C.A. Colfer, Charlie Hunt, John Moran, Paul Newmaster, and especially Darrell Hare. As Dad would always say, said it ain't bragging if you've done it, and he's done it now, so I guess we can all brag a little.
I too want to thank everyone that came from Michigan and everywhere else to be here with us tonight and to celebrate Daddy's life. He loved being a horseman, and he was proud because he was a firm believer in being happy in whatever you did in life. And if you weren't happy, he would try to encourage you to change to another job so that you would be happy in life. I remember Daddy always smiling, and his ability to be comfortable with everybody that he met. And he always liked Will Rogers, kind of like that too. We were shadows of Daddy, following him around through the barns and the pastures, learning to feed the horses, learning to cool them down, and learning to shovel the stalls. It was a family affair at the ranch, and we all had a job to do. Even the day that he told me to go up to the house and learn to be a lady like Mama. I'm not sure I became the lady that Mama was, but I do know that we had two parents that taught us love, faith, and skills for life. I too thank the American Quarter Horse Association for recognizing Daddy as a leader in the horse world and bestowing this honor on our dad, Guy Ray Rutland.
Well, you'll have to forgive all three of us for being a little nervous and emotional up here. That is something that we all inherited from Dad. He never did consider himself a very good public speaker, especially when the sales came around. He'd always be so nervous before the sale would start, and he just didn't like getting up in front of those people. But as soon as Gordon or Dean Parker put that gavel down and started crying the sale, then he was in his comfort zone. Now he could talk horses. He'd always stop and say, "Now I believe I would." Just somebody stopped bidding a little bit, but he was happy and in his comfort zone of talking horses with people. He'd talk horses with anyone, with any depth, whether it was Walter Merrick, Clary Spencer, Bud Warren, or Joe Blow from Kokomo. He was comfortable and would talk horses as deep as anyone would want to go. And he really loved driving people out in the pasture who came by in the springtime and go out and show them some of our 150 or so mares with babies on them. And he'd point out to this baby or that baby. He said, "Now here's a story about this one." And he'd tell a story as far back as a person wanted to go of that baby's pedigree. I think if anyone who was ever there, they'd realize that it was a history lesson with a few jokes turned in there with it. Having Dad honored here tonight is a dream come true for our family, which is really what the quarter horse industry is built on, is a dream. Dad, when he was a young boy, he used to dream about being a cowboy just like his father was. All he had to do was ride around on a horse and check cattle all day. Well, as a young man raising cattle, he realized there was more to the business than just riding the horse around. So he always kept his love for quarter horses growing, and it continued to grow, and he swapped and traded horses just to earn a little extra feed money for the cattle. Well, one day he took a check into the bank, and the banker looked at it and said, "My God, Guy Ray." He says, "You better get rid of those cows and buy more horses." Well, that was the wrong thing to say to my dad. He bought more horses, and boy, did he buy them. Well, this was in the late 50s, you have to realize, and this was a time when most people didn't make their living in raising and trying to sell quarter horses, especially without another source of income. But Dad did live his dream, and he was successful doing it. He never changed his values of a horse he wanted to raise and what he thought people really needed. Even as the quarter horse industry and the breeding industry began to grow into a more segregated endeavor, somewhat moving away from the versatile, all-around horse that really could do it all. Well, Dad was fortunate enough to have been able to raise one of the what most of us consider to be that one horse of a lifetime. In his mind, there was none better than Pacific Bailey to sire a good horse for any purpose. Now, even though Pacific Bailey only missed his Supreme Championship by a few points, it didn't stop Dad from telling people that he was the most potent sire of his times, and he believed that. But beyond all the national recognition that he and Pacific Bailey gained through the years, his real wish was to help others realize their own dreams of owning a quarter horse that could do it all, no matter the price of the checkbook or the money they had in their checkbook. Dad taught us to be honest with folks because trust is something that you earn. Some people will do what some people will appreciate 20 years from now as well as they will 2 days from now, and raise a horse that people want to keep for a lifetime. We're so proud that you've honored Dad here tonight, but it's because of so many of you that believed in him through the years that made this all possible. I'm sure if he were here tonight, he would remind us of the little saying that he had: make new friends and keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold. Thank you all, and above all, thank God.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
One other person I want, is this thing still on?
Keep going, keep going.
One other person I want to thank too is our sister. She did a lot of legwork and communication on this deal.
Hold on, guys, hold on. There's no greater legacy for a man than his children. Congratulations to Guy, Ray Rutland, Jeff, Cliff, and Becky. Congratulations.